Welcome to In the Zone. Alongside Bill, Cullen, and Brad Wood, I'm your host, Liam Crane. With an exciting week in baseball and the NBA and Stanley Cup playoffs right around the corner, we have a lot to talk about. In the Zone starts now. Kicking things off this week with joining the buzz around the Major League with the Tampa Bay Rays remaining undefeated through their first 11 games. The Rays are steamrolling through the league, and they do not appear to be slowing down anytime soon. The Rays will look to continue their success in Game 3 of 4 tonight against the Boston Red Sox. Now, Billy, what do you think about the relentless Rays?
I think we have to start off with, not only do they score the most runs in the majors, but they also allow the least amount of runs. That will help you with starting off 11-0. During the 11 games, they've also shut out their opponents 4 times. And what's really good about Tampa Bay is once they get through the lineup the second and third time from the batting order, that is when they have a lot of success offensively. But we have to slow down on the hype train because they've played 4 of the worst teams in the sport. I mean, the Tigers, Nationals, Athletics, and Red Sox are all projected to finish last in their division. So, yes, it's great. It's very hard to start 11-0. That's why there hasn't been a lot of teams to do it, but I think we have to slow our roll on if they're going to be one of the best teams at the end.
I think the longest undefeated roll was the 13-0 1987, like Milwaukee Brewers or something like that. So I don't think that this is going to last too long. What are you thinking, Brad?
You know, you got to think. Good teams, right? They can win 2 out of 3 out of 4 series, but the Rays, they're finishing off. And one thing about baseball, pitching is king. Throughout the entire staff, both the starters, relievers, they were just killing it. They're killing it. Like what you said before, like 4 or 5 shutouts. And they're still winning. They know how to play small ball, okay? It's one thing that the Rays can figure out is they know how to win games, all right? I don't expect them to win the AL East, all right? That's tough, all right? We got the Yanks and we got the Jays. And even the O's, for crying out loud, they're on fire, all right? I like the energy from the O's. But honestly, getting off the hype train a little bit, but let's see how far they can go.
Seems we're all in agreement. What do you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, but we also have to keep in mind, well, like you said with the pitching, Shane McClanahan is one of the best pitchers in baseball. For the majority of last year, he was the Cy Young favorite. Started the tear off at the end of the year, and then Verlander went on a run at the end. But they will, that's what they are. They're not going to blow you out in games most of the time. They're not going to score a bunch of runs, but like you said, they will figure out how to win games.
Let's talk about a team that you guys are very familiar with, all right? The Fightin' Phils. Last time we talked about them, they were only 1-4. Now they have begun to settle in and win a few games this past week against the Reds and the Marlins, going from a nail-biter to a barn burner to blowing the fish out of the water. Brad, how are the Phillies finding success?
Whoa. Let's cool down. Do you think this was going to last? No, okay, they fought the Reds and the Marlins, all right? Wake me up when they actually face a competitor. What's a big problem with the Phils that no one's really talking about? Sure, they have a great closer, but the middle relievers are just not there. They don't know how to get there. Not to mention, the bread and butter of the Phillies offense is homers. They're on the bottom tier in homers this season so far. Sure, they have some injuries, but where's the pop? Okay? Their bread and butter is 3-1 home runs and getting there. They are not doing that good, okay? The offense is all over the place. The lineups just seems to change day by day. They're not finding the groove right now, okay? There's just something off with the Phils.
Yeah.
So I just don't know. I still think they're going to be maybe around 500, but I'm not going to really pay attention too much to them when I saw being the competitors.
Right. Now, Bill, you're not very happy with the pitching on the Phillies either. What's your take?
Well, listen, right now, I think clearly the Phillies have not adjusted to the pitch clock whatsoever.
Sure.
They clearly did not come into this season prepared. Every other team feels like they figured it out. Yes, they might not get a lot of violations, but at the end of the day, they don't have command of their pitches whatsoever. I'm going to give you a little pushback on the reliever take that you had, and the reason I say that is because I don't think the relievers have been so much of an issue when Nola's given up 5 runs a game, when you got Wheeler only going 5, when Tyjon Walker's walking everybody who comes up to the plate or going to a full count. You're putting your relievers in a bad spot. And also to go with the relievers, Jose Alvarado this year has faced up 13 batters, all 13 out, struck out 11 of them. So I don't think relievers really been the issue. I think that they will figure it out. And listen, right now we expected a slow start for the Phillies. Wait till Harper gets back, and then that's when the season starts.
I mean, I can agree with that, but there's also another thing with the offense. They're not running the bases. They're trying to stretch out a single to a double, and they're getting out, all right? Pickoffs, they were top in the league, I believe 9, if I'm not mistaken, while the average in the league is 3. This is some little league stuff that they should figure out. It's not like they're a young team at all, right? No, they have a lot of vets, like Schwarzer, Harper will come back. To me, when you have nice close games, like what you said, they have a lot of pressure on the relievers, but you're not giving them any support if you don't know how to run, you don't know when, yes, this is a single, I'm not going to stretch it a double. They're not a fast team compared to others. So I think that's also hindering the Phils as well.
Yeah.
I think that I agree. I think I want to also give a shout out to Bryson Stott. Right now he's battling around like 500. He's been doing amazing. And also, I agree the pickoffs are ridiculous. But what I will say is, again, it's early. I'm not worried. I wait till June and July for it to change.
Definitely, and we shall see. Shifting gears toward the other side of the nation in the National League West, where the Diamondbacks currently sit at the top of their division standings. After winning 4 of their last 5, the D-backs seek a win against the Brewers to stay atop the Padres and Dodgers. Billy, things appear to be heating up in Arizona. What are the D-backs doing to keep them in the driver's seat of this difficult division?
Well, to start, they have taken full advantage of the slow start of the Padres and the Dodgers. Also, they faced those teams combined, Padres and Dodgers combined, about 10 times. 6-4 in those games. That's not bad for a team like the Diamondbacks, who we don't have a lot of high expectations for. Yeah. They find a way to win close games. If you look at them, they're a 7-5 team with a -6 run differential. So what that tells you is they find a way to win close games, but if they let it get away, it's not gonna be pretty for them. What they're doing well that I like is they're bringing up a lot of their younger bats. Corbin Carroll's the #1 guy we got to talk about because he is their big prospect and he's really, really good. But right now, I think that again, same thing with Tampa. Diamondbacks are not supposed to be at the end when it comes to when you're with the Dodgers and the Padres. Could they make a run at the wild card? We'll see. I like their team. I like what they're building. But I still think they're a year or 2 away from really being a contender.
Okay, do you like Arizona?
I do like Arizona, but the thing is, I think they could go a little bit farther, right? The pitching towards the end started to solidify a little bit. It does help that the NL West is a little bit sleepy like the Padres. My pick for winning the 2023 World Series, slow. They're just, So right now, I think the pitching needs a core, and you brought up a good point. Like, the Diamondbacks are one of the best farm systems at bringing up great young bats, eager to show what they got in the majors. Honestly, they could go far. They can fight for a wildcard spot, but there's a lot that needs to go right for the Diamondbacks.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
I was going to say one more thing again, like putting out shout-outs. Zach Gallen, again, one of the better pitchers in baseball that nobody talks about. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Definitely. And my notes here, do you guys have a favorite yet for the National League West? I mean, I feel like there's a lot of surprises this year. And I know with like the Phillies, the East, like Bryce Harper, what's the timeline on him? Do you know when he's supposed to come back?
So there's word that he might come back earlier, and they may play him at first base to start off the year because they want to have him integrate. They want him to play, have Bone play third, and not have to use his arm as much. It could be as early as before the All-Star break. Could be as early as June, but I'm expecting somewhere in late July, maybe early August.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that is early, and I think that's kind of what's holding the Phillies back. But like looking at the West, I'm shocked. Do you guys have any teams yet that you're convinced?
I'm not really convinced, but I just know the Padres, especially when Tatis comes back, Soto will get hot. I know they will pull through in the summer, all right? Sure, we have some surprises, but there's 162 games in the MLB season. I still have the Padres winning, especially when the Dodgers got weak, especially with the pitching core.
Right.
I think they'll pull through.
Okay. What about you?
I'm going to say this. I think the Dodgers will find a way to win that division. They do every year. And the reason I don't trust the Padres, when have the Padres proven us in the regular season they could be a true contender? Also, to put into account, they've spent a lot of money with Xander Bogaerts, which is a big-time bat to have. They have an incredible top 4 to 5 in their order. But when you go through 6 through 9, and the amount of bats they lost last year with Bell, Drury, Profar, who was their leadoff, I just don't see them being as good later on when
But
they
Bell
need to.
really wasn't that hot, though. I mean, he got traded, and like, I don't even blame him. Bell was a little bit disappointing. You expect more pop at the bat with someone like Bell, but he was a little bit underwhelming, especially last year, and he's even worse now. I think the Padres got off lucky, if I'm being honest with Bell.
Yeah, it's heating up. It's heating up, and I love it. Now, it's been a busy week, too, for Marauder Athletics. We're going to send it over to Ruby Mundok for the latest in Ville sports. Ruby?
The weather is heating up, and so are Millersville sports in the midst of the spring season. The baseball team faced off against East Stroudsburg in a doubleheader over the weekend, winning one game 5-0 and losing the other 1-9, their first home loss of the season. The 4 runs in Game 1 came from Bren Taylor and Tyler Wright scoring 1 apiece, and Jimmy Losh adding 2 more to lead the Marauders to the win. The team then had a phenomenal win against Frostburg State on Tuesday, finishing with a whopping score of 21-4. 20 of the points were scored in the final 6 innings once the Marauders got in the groove. Head coach John Sheehan shared, quote, "Today showed what kind of team we are, relentless. I was really proud of how we responded today against a good team," end quote. The baseball team is now 27-6 overall. The Millersville softball team also had a split doubleheader on Saturday, losing to Bloomsburg 0-9 in the first game, but coming back to win 5-3 in the second. On Tuesday, they took on Westchester's Golden Rams in a doubleheader, losing both games. Head coach Jen Prost said that the defense played well, but the team couldn't get their bats going. Men's tennis won 5-2 against Westchester on Friday, bringing their overall record to 5-6, while the women's team fell short against the Golden Rams, losing 2-5. Women's lacrosse has a 6-6 record now after losing to East Stroudsburg over the weekend. The high-scoring matchup with a final score of 10-16 was the Marauders' 3rd consecutive away game. Ashley Simonetti and Liv Genovese led the team with 3 goals and 1 assist each. In basketball, Millersville has announced that they will not renew the contracts of the women's head coach, Sheree Hall, and the assistant coach, Vontrice Hayes. Best of luck to all the Millersville Marauder teams as they wrap up their spring seasons and fight for a spot in the postseason. Now, let's head back to the desk for some updates on the NBA playoffs. Liam?
Thanks, Ruby. That's right. The NBA playoffs are just around the corner as the play-ins are officially underway. The Miami Heat took on Atlanta Hawks at home and were the clear favorites to win this game. Atlanta, however, had different plans. Hungry for a spot in the playoffs, the Hawks did not give up their lead for what was basically the entirety of the game. So, Brad, are the Hawks legit, or was this just a poor performance from the Heat?
As a Heat fan, watching that game really upset me, right? We got bullied on the paint the whole game. We had the talent to come back, but we simply didn't, right? Looking at the offensive rebounds that game, the Heat gave up 22 offensive rebounds. That's just unacceptable. For the entire season, we lacked a good, solid number 5. We have no one above 7 foot tall. Like, we have no one to dominate the paint, and that affects our defense as well. Okay, how do we expect to even win games, let alone push for a playoff position with no defense? So for me, it's just disappointment. Now, 8th seed have an even tougher road to make it to the finals, but I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Right. Bill, are the Hawks legit, or is this their last game in the postseason?
The Hawks, I mean, it was impressive, right? To go on into Miami and win, right?
Yeah.
Boston's going to probably sweep them, but it's okay. At least they got to the 7th seed. But back to what you were saying with rebounds. Miami was out-rebounded 63-39. That's not pretty. And my Atlanta's bench, which, by the way, I think rebounding is massive, especially in the playoffs, because you have more of an opportunity to score, like you said, offensive rebounds. And bench. What does your bench do when your big-time players are out of the game? Atlanta's bench outscored Miami's 53-37. That is also including Kyle Lowry's 33 for Miami. So outside of Lowry, they had 4 points from the rest of the bench. Also to include Atlanta's the other parts of their bench, they all scored 10-plus points. I mean, for Atlanta, this is good, but I just don't see the matchup there. It's not going to go well with Boston. For Miami, I thought Miami actually could make a run for their money against Boston. I think Milwaukee's a tougher road, but Miami did beat Milwaukee a couple years ago in the playoffs when they went to the NBA Finals during the bubble year. So anything can happen, but they're also going to have to beat one of these tough, Toronto or Chicago teams who are scrappy. But
Again, you have a point about our bench. We have no depth. Injured Hackenbeck, all right? We simply don't have it. Against Boston, a good conference finals rerun from like the bubble year, I believe. We want to get swept. It's going to break my heart. Kind of wish Bam could come out and Butler as well, you know? But it's not going to happen. We just simply do not have enough depth, and defense has always been a problem. Against Boston, not a shot.
Right. I was kind of surprised. I mean, Jimmy Butler's like the face of that franchise. Imagine if he was still with the 76ers. I know, you're probably thinking a little too hard. Let's not think about that too much, all right? Enjoy him while you have him. Let's take it over out west to the City of Angels. Now, the Lakers faced off against the Timberwolves in a 7 and 8 seed matchup. With the Timberwolves leading the whole game, the Lake Show came alive in the second half, forcing an overtime in which the Lakers would pull away with the win. Barely, that is. Setting them up for a date with the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, Bill, what does this say about the Lakers?
What I really like what the Lakers did is they stick to their strengths, especially since the beginning of the year. Do you remember early we kept talking about how much of a joke the Lakers were because they just kept jacking up threes when they're not a three-point shooting team?
Yep.
They then switched to, okay, we now know our identity. We're in the paint, right? Anthony Davis only took 1 3 yesterday, and that's how it should be. Anthony Davis, outside that foul late against Mike Conley, was really good, right? LeBron dropped 30. I mean, it's LeBron. No matter what you want to say, he's one of the greatest players of all time. On top of that, I think he was 50% from three-point range. And I also want to talk about how important it is for the other guys, their 3 and D players. Dennis Schroeder had 22 points yesterday with a plus 22 plus minus. That's really good. Hachimura had a plus 20 plus minus. They're getting guys from their bench to contribute. That's going to really help them. I actually think they're going to make a push against Memphis. I think that's going to be a tough series. But on the Minnesota side, Anthony Edwards, no matter what I think he's a great player, great talent. He was awful. He was awful to say. I mean, he was 3 for 17 from the field, 0 for 9 from 3, 4 turnovers and only 9 points in the biggest game of the season as of right now. You had that lead the entire time. When you have that big lead and you know the Lakers are coming back, they're making it a game, you have to put that away as the big-time player, and he wasn't able to do so.
Right. Do you have any opinion on the Lakers now?
I just have a lot of agreement with Bill over there. Like the Lakers, beginning of the year, we're looking like, oh, they're not going to make it. They're dead. No, they came back to life. Absolutely bounced back. It's crazy. They're on a roll. Though that game, a lot of heart attacks during that game, pushing to overtime. KD wasn't really blocking the three-point line when they're up by 3. Like, come on, simple stuff. Simple stuff, but he never learns his lessons. But I think the Lakers, especially with that bench, could go far in the playoffs. I think they could surprise, but will they make it to the finals? I don't think so, but we'll see.
It's tough to say, especially watching that first half. I was really rooting for LeBron because, I mean, the longevity's there, but he only has a few more years if we're being realistic. I want him to do well. And then eventually I just hit a moment where I was like, they don't deserve this. They're not hungry enough for it. And they came back, and I just don't know what to think. But hey, that's in the past. Let's look ahead. In the play-in tournament tonight, we have 2 games between the 9 and 10 seeds. The Chicago Bulls will travel across the border to face Pascal Siakam and the Toronto Raptors, along with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and the Thunder travel to the Big Easy to face the Pelicans. Brad, who's traveling to Miami and Minnesota, and who is going home?
You know, get this out of the way. I think Thunder is definitely going to beat the Pelicans. Simple, without Zion. Even though they have a nice young core, Zion is a beast, and he meshes well with the Pelicans. Yeah. But the problem is, never plays. Barely has torn hamstring? It only takes 3 to 8 weeks to heal. He's been out for months. We always see him on the sidelines. Sure, there's workout videos of him shooting jumpers and all that and slamming, but he ain't playing. So without him, I really don't think the Pelicans have much of a shot. Now with the Bulls and Raptors, really going out on a limb. I think, though, the Bulls don't really strike me as a lot of superstars on the roster. I think they just have the better depth overall that can really bring out, especially in that third quarter, and beat and upset a little bit the Toronto Raptors. But Bill, I know you're going to disagree, but what do you think?
Wow.
When it comes to Toronto, I think they have the better coach, and I think they're the better situational team than Chicago. The thing that worries me is that there's rumors that Nick Nurse is thinking about retiring already, which is a little like, why are we talking about that? The season isn't even over for you guys yet. But I'm going to roll with Toronto strictly because of the fact that, again, they have the better, I want to say, chemistry than Chicago does, and I trust them to make the shot late and to, if when the game gets close, because they're a young, scrappy team, that's what they do. Chicago is not as much, and they're not as good situationally. To the other side, you say that Pelicans have no shot. I think the Pelicans do have a shot, and I think they win at home. The reason I do, OKC has not been hot as of late. They've won 4 out of their last 10. That's not great. They've really gotten into playoffs because the Mavericks imploded. To add on top of that, Shea is not completely healthy. Yes, he's been great, and he'll probably drop 30 points again. But for the Pelicans, they have been one of the hotter teams, especially through the play-in tournament teams. And C.J. McCollum's dropping 20 points a game, and the Pelicans, I really like what they're doing. And you said them not having Zion's big. You can make the case that them not having Zion might benefit from the team chemistry standpoint, from their camaraderie, because again, he's only played 29 games this year.
I mean, here's the thing with Zion, though. If I want the Pelicans to really go far and really be strong, Zion is a man to do it. There's a different team that can honestly really fight for the West and be up there, not just do a plan. But honestly, I just think the Thunder just have a better young core, if I'm being honest. I know what you mean. They've been really kind of off, but honestly, start at 0, really. This is basically the playoffs. I think the Thunder would just pull through. But I see your point. I really do. I'm going with my gut here.
I think if we're talking about an individual play-in game, yes. If we're talking about a push for the playoffs, you're going to need that star impact. You know what I mean? So I think for this game, it's totally up in the air. We don't know. But again, as with anything, we shall see. Now looking at the Western Conference, in terms of potential playoff pushes, some teams out west started to really close the gap in talent towards the end of the season. The Nuggets have been consistently at the top of the rankings week in and week out, but other teams like Memphis and Phoenix could dethrone Denver with the talent that they have built over the past few months. That being said, Bill, is there really a clear favorite to make a push in the West?
Not really. I don't think there really is a clear favorite. I think it's so tough to say. It's really like you could pick any team, and no one's going to disagree with you. When it comes to Denver, I think a team's just going to go, hey, we're going to take Jokic out of the game, and good luck.
Yep.
And I don't think that they're going to I don't think they're going to have a lot to push back against that. Memphis, they have become, in my opinion, the worst heel of all time. If any wrestling fan knows what I'm talking about, they just, like, Golden State was a heel, right? Because they signed Kevin Durant after going to the championship twice. Right. But at least they won the championship, right? Miami was a heel, the Heat, with LeBron. New England Patriots, they were a heel. But what did they all do? They won championships. Memphis won 1 playoff series.
Right.
That's not good. You can't act like the biggest heel in the NBA. Oh, the only team we got to worry about is Boston. I don't even know if they beat the Lakers, to be honest with you. I don't know if I can completely trust them with that. The team and the Suns, they don't have, it's like Brooklyn from a couple years ago.
Right.
They don't have enough of their stars playing together, and that's huge in the playoffs. The team who I think honestly has the best shot, it's going to sound weird, but it's Sacramento, because of the fact that they again, a stat that I saw, there's only the last team to win the NBA Finals with a losing road record was 1980. Only the Clippers and the Kings have a winning road record. Now, the Clippers, do I completely trust them? No, because they're never healthy. Right. And I don't know if I could trust Tyronn Lue in a big moment. When it goes to the other side with the Kings, do I trust them? I don't know. But Mark Jackson's been there with the Golden State Warriors as an assistant coach. De'Aaron Fox is really good, people. He's like really, really good. Domantas Sabonis is one of the best paint players in the NBA. And what they've surrounded that entire team with is 3-and-D players. I think that I think if there's any team, they can go for a big push lead.
Who are you liking in the West?
You know, honestly, he's not wrong with any pick. No one's wrong with any pick. I'm really going out on a limb here. I think it's the Nuggets. Simply because they're good on the three-point line. They know how to shoot buckets. Defense will push them through. But here's the thing. I could have a good argument with the Suns as well. They have that playoff experience. I think it could just push through. They need to complete the story, all right? They need to win a championship, in my opinion. For me, that'll make me feel happy. But it's really up in the air. It's scrappy. Now, for the East, you can always do the Celtics. That's kind of easy enough. But West, it's a dogfight. I think it's going to be very entertaining to watch.
Right. I think after KD went to Phoenix, everyone was like, if it's not the Suns, it's a disappointment. And it's really looking like it's going to be a disappointment now. I love that Sacramento take. We'll see how that plays out. Now changing our focus over to the ice, where the Stanley Cup playoffs is just about ready to go with all playoff spots clinched except the final wild card spot. In the Metropolitan Division, the Pittsburgh Penguins sit 1 point behind the New York Islanders. The Islanders control their own destiny with a win tonight against the Canadiens, with the Penguins pray for Montreal victory as they face against the Blue Jackets tomorrow evening. Brad, who is securing the last playoff spot?
Islanders fan here. It's been a rough road, if I'm being honest. It's been tough, but here's one factor. I'm really going to dumb it down. Bailey, all right, on our team, he's been absolutely awful. I have never seen a player who comes in and just ruins the whole chemistry, and when he's on the ice, he just lays an egg. I don't expect him to do anything at all. He just doesn't mesh well. This is the Islanders, all right? We have vets that just don't mesh well. We have a nice young core that can really push through and build around, but Lou, our manager, just simply doesn't do that. I would like to say on paper against the Canadiens, like, come on, we should win. But I expect disappointment and the Pens to go on through and get swept in the first round.
Wow. Any take from this side?
Well, as a non-Islanders fan, I think the Islanders will beat Montreal tonight because they should. If you want to make the playoffs, you should beat the Canadiens, who are the second worst team in the East. But I also think the Islanders out of Pittsburgh and, well, the Islanders have the better shot at making it tough on Boston. The reason I say that is because, well, Islanders are more willing to make the game ugly, and I think that's the way to beat the good teams, right? You got to be ugly. You got to really make it. You got to make them really want it. And when's the last time a President's Trophy team gone to the NHL Stanley Cup Finals? I couldn't tell you, right? Matt Barzal could take a game over at any moment, whenever he wants to. And Schuster, their goalie, oh no, I'm sorry, Sorokin, their goalie, got them mixed up. He is one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. He leads the league in shutouts. He's third in the league in save percentage, and he's sixth in the league in goals allowed. So you're not going to get much by him. I think that they'll make it tough on Boston, because I do believe that they'll make it. And also, I hate the Penguins, and I would love to see all their fans cry.
I love it.
I just always expect disappointment as an Islanders fan. Always break my heart. This is the first time in my life that actually, in a few years, actually competing for a playoff spot. But I just have a feeling to break up apart. And even if they make it to Boston, I do expect them to be tough, but I really think Boston will still pull through. Why? They just have a lot more depth. You need to win playoff games by depth.
Hey, I mean, pretty optimistic take from Bill there. I mean, that should encourage you at least a little bit.
Nah.
They should. They should win.
Took a lot out of me to give you a compliment at the Islanders.
All right, let's look ahead at some future matchups. Teams like the Bruins and the Avalanche are seen as the favorites, but teams like the Oilers and the Stars have seemed to catch fire at the right time. Bill, which matchup are you most excited for, and are there any teams you want to keep an eye on?
Well, there's a matchup right now in the Central. If it were to happen in the playoffs, I think it would be very intriguing. It's the Stars and the Wild. I think that would be really good. The Wild have gotten better goaltending as the year has gone on. I know Marc-Andre Fleury has not been great this year, but they figured it out as the year has gone on, and Kirill Kaprizov is an absolute demon on the ice. And when it goes to the Dallas Stars, they have one of the best offensive firepower in the sport, and they have one of the better goaltenders. You put them 1 and 2 together, they might make a run to the Stanley Cup again like they did in 2020. But if I had to pick my team in the entire NHL playoffs, not just the West, but in the playoffs to go, I really trust Carolina this year. I do. I think the Devils are just too young. I think that it's too early for them. The Rangers, same thing with the Suns. There's too many new players coming in, and they haven't, they've been together too long. And Boston, like I said before, the President's Trophy thing, I don't believe that they're going to go all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals because, again, President's Trophy. Remember the Tampa Bay Lightning a couple years ago?
Right.
Were the #1 seed and got swept in the first round. Now, I don't see that happening to them, but that could happen. And Tampa Bay is not the same Tampa Bay as they were the last 3 years, and Toronto's going to lose in the first round. We already know that. But I think Carolina, I think it's their year.
Definitely. Who do you have your eye on?
I would like to think Carolina could push through, but honestly, they've just been a little bit disappointing in very important spots for me. I would like to see a good Cinderella story with them. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Boston's going to pull through. I know the President's Trophy. It's but they're just so good. I thought they were going to decline, but no, they're just back from the dead. They keep pushing. I really think there's some higher power pushing the Boston Bruins, but would they win the finals? No. I still have my eyes, even before, the Dallas Stars. I love their offense. They are fire. They are fun to watch. Any hockey game is fun to watch, but when it's the Dallas Stars on, gotta have to watch it. I really think it's going to be Stars, Bruins, but I think the Stars are going to win it.
Wow. Bold take, bold take. All right, that will do it for today's episode. For Bill Cullen, Brad Wood, and Ruby Mundok, I'm Liam Crane. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time right here on In the Zone.